Hello everyone, welcome to another Linux video and thanks for joining me. I've started creating a series of videos for new Linux users and started the series with the installation of Ubuntu Desktop in a VirtualBox. And in this video, we are going to continue the series with very basic commands that the first-time Linux users find helpful. In fact, if this is your first time in Linux terminal and you are learning command line, these commands will be probably the first command that you will need to learn to navigate your system using terminal. So you might ask, what is the terminal? Unix was one of the early operating systems in the early days of computer system, and it was designed to run as a multi-user system on mainframe computers, and the only way users can interact with the computers was via terminals. And these terminals had just a keyboard and the screen and didn't run any programs locally. Using a terminal, you would have to send the commands to the server and it will display server's response back to the terminal. There was no graphical input and output at that time, and even with the text input and output, it was important to utilize resources very carefully, and that is why the commands in Linux or Unix system were made short to decrease the number of keystrokes and speed up the terminal uses. And that is the same reason terminal is still popular in Linux system. And if you have a desktop environment installed, like you see on this laptop, you can either search for terminal using a search box. You can go to activities and search for terminal, or exit out of it. Most of the Linux distribution support shortcut Control-Alt-T. That will also open up the terminal. And when you're done using the terminal, you can hit Control-D to exit out of it or to log out from the terminal. And if you have the terminal added to your favorites on the sidebar, you can simply click it, open it. And if you do not have a desktop environment installed in your Linux system, all you have is a shell, probably a bash shell, which is the most common and default shell in many Linux distros. And you can check which shell you're using by typing echo $ uppercase shell, and it will display what shell you're currently using. So I'm using bash shell, and when you're logged into a shell, it takes text as inputs and display text as an output in a shell terminal. Now we have a terminal open. Let's take a look at some of the basic commands in Linux system. And no matter which Linux distro or shell you're using, these commands should work the same way. While choosing between different Linux flavor, you'll notice that the technical differences are mainly about package management system, software version, and file locations. And once you get the grasp of those differences, it becomes relatively painless to switch from one Linux distribution to another. So some of the commands that we'll be talking today work with or without parameter, and some commands can even take multiple parameters. So let's go and check them out. And the first command that we're going to talk today is ls. So ls stands for list. So it will list any files or directory under current folder. If you only do ls, it does not display everything inside that folder or directory. In Linux system, there are a lot of files and directories hidden for a special purpose. And if you want to display those folders or files, you have to type ls space -a, list all. If you notice, some of the files and directories have dot in front of their name. That means those are hidden files. And typing ls command won't display those hidden files by default. So you have to give -a option with ls command to display those hidden files. And you can type ls space -l. It does the long listing of the content of the directory. So with this kind of listing, you get a lot of other information. So this is the permission of the file. This is the user who created the file. This is the group where the user belongs to, size of the file, date, and the name of the file. We will talk about this file permission and permission management in different videos, but for the purpose of this video, we're going to skip that part and only focus on basic commands. And you can also combine two different options. So ls-a will display hidden file, but if you do l, it will display all the hidden files in long listing format. And you can also type ll, which is short for long listing. It works the same way as ls-al. And by default, when you type the command, it displays everything on the current working directory. If you want to list the content of other directory, you have to give the path of that directory, ls, let's say etc or etc, some people call it, and it displays everything inside that directory. And ls-a, etc, hidden files as well, ll. So ls just displays everything under current directory. It's the same thing as if you go on the file manager and double click the folder and see or list the folder and directory inside that folder. Our next command is pwd, which means print working directory. This command runs without any argument. And when I typed pwd in a terminal, it simply printed the directory I'm currently working in. And we are going to use pwd throughout this session. So you'll get the use case of the pwd when we are navigating in a file system using a terminal. Our third command is cd. cd stands for change directory, and as its name suggests, it is used to change the current working directory into something else. So cd does not work without any argument and does not take more than one argument. So when changing a directory, you can provide a path of the directory in two ways. One is absolute path and the other is relative path. When the path of a directory starts with // it is called absolute path because it is starting with the beginning of the file system, which is represented by / and also known as a root directory. Everything in Linux system falls under this root directory. And if you start the path of the folder without // it is known as a relative path. That simply means you're referring the path of the file or the folder based on your current position in a file system directory structure. So if you do cd/pwd, now you're into the root of the file system, which is a root directory. And if you do cd space hyphen, it simply takes you back where you were before you changed to the directory of root system. So cd space hyphen will switch back and forth between two recently used directories. And if you do cd/home/umes, so now you're giving the absolute path of my home directory, which is /home/umes, and pwd, you are there now. And if you want to go inside 018 folder, now this is a relative path because you're already in /home/umes folder and you changed to 018 folder. Your path didn't start with /, but the path of 018 is relative to your current path, and that's why it's called relative path. If you do cd space .. it will take you out of that current directory and takes you back to /home/umes directory. You cannot do cd .. without space. It gives you error message. It works in Windows machine, but not on Linux. So now pwd, you're back to /home/umes. And if you're in somewhere into etc MySQL directory, and you also notice that in my terminal, the path of the folder that you're currently in is displayed as part of the terminal text. Some terminal will display current working directory only, not the full path, but some terminal will display the full path as well. And if you see somewhere the sign, this sign, it simply means the home directory of currently logged in user. So if I'm in this directory and I want to go to my home directory, I can simply type cd space sign, and no matter where I am, it will take me directly to my home directory. So sign always represents home directory of currently logged in user in Linux system. cd hyphen takes me back to etc MySQL, or etc some people call it. And now if I want to go inside 018 folder in my home directory, I can simply type sign and 018 takes me directly to that folder. So this is also absolute path because sign will give you /home/umes, and from that location you're going to 018 folder. But if you do cd space .. that's relative path, and /.. takes you one step out again, /.. takes you back to the root file system. So you can use cd .. in that fashion as well. And you can also do cd .. now you're into /home/umes/ and if I have another folder there, I can navigate like that as well. So I got one step out and then I was inside umes folder, and inside that folder I went back to the templates folder. Let's go back to our folder. And our fourth command is to create files. There are many methods of creating files in Linux system, which we'll discuss in detail in future video. But today we're going to use one of the popular Linux text editor, VI, to create a file. With VI, you can give a name of the file at the beginning, or you can start editor without a name and later give a file name while saving it. One thing you have to remember while creating files or directories in Linux system is case sensitivity. Linux is a case sensitive operating system, and so it's commands and file names. So if you take a look at this directory, a.txt, I have 4 a.txt file. If it was in Windows, you could not create more than one file because Windows takes all the files as same file. But in case of Linux, it's case sensitive, and all those files are treated as different files. And you notice that there's a file called test, and there's a folder called test with uppercase T, because Linux treats everything as file, including hard drive, CD-ROM, memory, everything is treated as a file, and you cannot have two files with the same name in one directory. So let's create a file. So you can do VI. Actually, I have created a separate video where I discussed about VI editor in detail, and I'll put the link of that video on the top right corner, so you can go and check it out later if you want to. This is a test file. Now, while saving it, I can give a file name, but if I do not, it gives me error message. So no file name, save. And let's say I give a name test. There's already a file named test, so it should give me the error message. Yeah, file already exists, So I could do exclamation and override it, or I could create another file, test2. And if I do ls, now there's a test2 file. And I could also do vi test3. So now I'm giving a name of the file in the beginning. And this is test3 file. Now I can simply save the file. And I have one more file. So this is how you can quickly create a file. And if you want to read the file, you can do it that way. Or Linux also has another command, which we'll talk detail in separate video, cat, which is concatenate, simply opens the file. Our next command is to create directories, and the command is mkdir. So mkdir takes single as well as multiple arguments to create single or multiple folders at the same time. Mkdir A simply creates one folder A. Mkdir B space C space D creates 3 folders or directories. You can also use mkdir to create a parent directory and child directory inside a parent directory. So mkdir -p to create parent directory first, 1, 2, 3. So it will create a directory named 1, and inside 1, it will create another directory named 2, and inside 2 directory, it will create directory 3. cd1, cd2, cd3, and exit out. Now we are into our working directory again. And since there's already test folder, we cannot create a directory with the same name because the file already exists, which I explained a little bit earlier, that everything is file and you cannot have 2 files with the same name. And if you want to create a directory which name has 2 words separated by a space, you could do mkdir, do folder 1 ls. Now folder space 1, that's the name of the directory. You could also do mkdir folder 2, or you could also do mkdir folder \3. So backslash will escape the character. In this case, it's escaping space. So it's asking mkdir to ignore the space and create a folder ls. So folder 3 is also created. And you could also do mkdir folder 4, and inside folder 4, folder 5. Okay, so this is important. So it gave me error message saying folder 4 does not exist. And it's because we are trying to create a child folder without creating a parent folder first. So -p option again. And now it creates a parent folder, and inside parent folder, it creates a child folder. Space. It's not very common to create folders with this space. You can see that I already made a lot of mistake. And experienced Linux user, they usually create a folder either without space or hyphen or underscore, because it's kind of hassle and forgetful to enter backslash every time you want to go to the folder. Or you could simply do cd space and then folder and tab, which is helpful. But still, I recommend you practice to create a folder without a space in the name. Go to our working folder again. And there's one cool trick you can do with mkdir. Let me show you. mkdir-p d1, and under d1, I want to create d1a comma d1b comma d1c, and under each directory I want to create 2 separate directories, d0 and d1. So what this command will do is it will create a parent directory d1. Under d1 it creates d1a, d1b, and d1c, and under each d1a, d1b, and d1c it creates 2 different directories, d0 and d1. So you're creating multiple directories with just one command. d1, 3 directories, cd, d1a, d0, and d1. Get out, go to b, same thing. Get out, go to C, same thing. So this is really cool feature. And if you want to modify this a little bit, let's do -p and create b1 folder and b1a. And you want to create those 2 subfolders only under b1a, then you do /b0, b1, close bracket, and comma, b1b, b1c. So if you go under B1, we have B1A, B1B, and B1C, but only inside B1A, there are 2 folders. But if you get out and go to B1B, nothing there. Same thing, nothing there. So you can use this little trick to create multiple folders using one command. And our 6th command is to remove directory, and the command is rmdir. So rmdir by default removes only empty directory. So let's check it out. rmdir b1 cannot remove because it's not empty. rmdir a removes it because it's empty. And let's create one nested directories, mkdir-p 8 inside 8 9 inside 9 10. So I created directory 8, and inside directory there's a, and inside 8 there's a 9, and inside 9 there's a 10. So now we can do rmdir-p, same way we created a directory structure in 8, 9, and 10. So you could do this because none of those directories have any files. Gone. But let's do that command one more time. And let's go inside 9 directory. And let's create one file here, test. Now, if I want to run the command again to remove everything, shouldn't work. So failed to remove directory 8, 9, directory is not empty. So what happens here is it couldn't delete the directory 9 because directory 9 has the files, but it deleted the folder 10 because 10 was empty. So how do you want to delete the directory that's not empty? And that's what our next command is for. And the name of the command is rm. Rm actually removes the file, but can also be used to remove non-empty directories. So rm a.txt simply removes that file, rm folder, and anything. So rm without any option does not delete folders or directories, but you can use rm-r recursive, and you can use F option to force delete the opened directories, and folder gone. So it is very dangerous to use rm -rf command because it does not even give you warning. It simply deletes the file from the system. Unlike if you go on the file manager and right click and delete, it actually goes to the trash. But when you delete something from command line using rm-rf command, it's simply gone. It's not in trash or anywhere. So you have to be careful. But rm has one safety switch. You can use rm-i option test. So it will ask you, do you really want to delete this file? And if you do yes, it will delete it. And if you do no, it will keep it. And you can also do rm-i test, and doesn't matter what is the last character. So now it will delete test2, say no, test3, say no. Both files are there. So it is a safety switch you can use with rm command. Our next command, or 8th command, is copy. So to copy files in Linux system, you can use command cp, and it accepts multiple arguments. So you can copy multiple files from one directory to another directory. cp a.txt, a.txt, and a.txt, multiple files, and copy to test. So in case of multiple parameters, it always takes last parameter as a destination to copy all those 3 files. If I go inside test, now I have those 3 files in there. And if you want to create a copy inside the current directory, you could do a.txt and just give a different name, and it simply creates a copy of itself. And you can also do cp b.txt and give the path. So now it should copy b.txt into my home directory. And there's b.txt file. So our next command is move, and the name of the command is mv. So mv command can also be used to rename the files or directories. If you move files within the same directory and give a different name, that's a rename. But if you move file from one directory to another, it simply moves it. So let's try the command mv a.txt into d, moves that file there, And if you do mba.txt and just do b.txt, so you're now moving within the same directory, but different file name. So it's a rename. And a.txt got renamed into b.txt. And it also accepts multiple parameters. So you can actually move 1, 8, a.txt into, let's do, into test directory. So it all got moved to that folder. So when you provide multiple parameters, more than 2, it always takes last parameter as a destination and rest is a source. So our last command, or commands rather, deal with the system rather than the files or the folders. So when you are logged into the system and for some reason you want to change your password, you can do passwd. It will ask you for your current password. And you can simply type your new password, repeat that again, and your password is changed. And the next command is to shut down your system. And you can do so by using shutdown command. And if you enter, it will shut down after 60 seconds. But if you want to cancel it, -C. And in some of the Linux distribution, you can also use init space 0 to shut down your system. So these are a few commands that I think first-time Linux users may find helpful, and I'll continue creating such videos targeting for new Linux users. And if you can give me feedback for this video, it would be helpful for me to create contents in the future. So this is it for today's video. Keep learning Linux, keep exploring, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.